Here in the menstruation cycle, we need to understand here the female is releasing the unusual bleeding fluid, which is the segment of the menstruation cycle. Okay, in the menstruation cycle, basically, the body is prepared for the pregnancy period. Okay, the body is prepared for the pregnancy. Each subdivision or substeps of the menstruation cycle we'll discuss in detail. This menstruation cycle is influenced by hormone and physiological changes. Hormones, enzymes, and body behavior change. Everything is very, very important for the menstruation cycle to happen, right? We know very well the endometrium lining of the uterus, okay, which is very, very thick in the previous cycle, okay. Previous cycle means in the sense what? Okay, here the girl not conceived, okay, in the last segment of the menstruation cycle, so that the thick endometrium will go for degeneration. Okay, here that is the reason why they are saying the endometrium lining of the uterus, which is thickened in the previous cycle, sheds and expelled out from the body through the vagina. Through the vagina. So that is the first few starting phase of the. Okay, I'm repeating. The concerned female is having the egg to have an interaction with the sperm cells. If it is not happening, then what will happen is the developed endometrium will go for degeneration and it will be removed away from the vagina. So there is a thing we told to you, which is happening before the starting of the new menstruation cycle. So it happens for about 3 to 5 days, but it varies from one individual to other individual, right? Now, so again back I'm repeating, before one menstruation cycle, other menstruation cycle would have ended. In that ended menstruation cycle, the endometrium which not received the zygote will go for degeneration. Okay, once the degeneration is completed as a bleeding, okay, in the bleeding, lot of dead endometrium tissues will be there. Okay, and that bleeding, once it is completed, the new menstruation cycle is started. That is the thing they are saying here, right? So now, if you are looking about, there are totally 3 phases are there in the menstruation cycle. One is follicular phase, ovulation phase, and the luteal phase. Follicular phase is rich in follicles domination. In ovulation phase, the egg is released. In the luteal phase, what is exactly released means egg is released, right? Now we are coming for the next segment. So after the menstruation cycle, the first segment, not after the menstruation cycle, after the menstruation phase of the menstruation cycle, the follicular phase is present, not follicular cycle. Again, back I'm repeating. Some students are writing follicular cycle. No, follicular phase. In the follicular phase, the gonadotropin releasing hormone makes the pituitary gland to release FSH or follicular stimulating hormone. This follicular stimulating hormone stimulates the ovarian follicles development. Right? These developed ovarian follicles is having the immature egg. Okay. So what is exactly happening? These follicles produces estrogen. Follicles produces estrogen. And this estrogen brings the thickening of the uterus layer or uterine layer, right? So one more time I'll repeat. This gonadotropin releasing hormone, okay, makes the pituitary gland to release FSH. FSH is in more quantity so that the follicles development will happen. Why the follicles development should supposed to happen? Why? Because this follicle development makes a very good quality egg. Very good quality egg. So these follicles are making the estrogen. So see, if you're going to MBBS medicine, there you will be studying androgen is becoming estrogen, which is not there in the CBSE textbook. So all the female makes the androgen in the follicles. That androgen is becoming estrogen. That point in time we are avoiding. Why? Because it is not the part of CBSE textbook, right? So that is why what we are not giving in detail. We are giving point to point as per the CBSE for facing the board exam, right? So if we're talking about the implantation, once the zygote is formed, it is getting implanted over the endometrium. For that to happen, we need the many number of cells in the zygote, which are many number. That means we used to call each and every cell as blastomere, which is very, very important for making the zygote as well established structure for getting implanted in the endometrium of the uterus, right? Now, if you're talking about the ovulation, the egg is released, right? So in the ovulation phase, after the follicular phase, the egg is released. So this time is a good period for the copulation to happen. So the copulation, if you are encouraging, for example, in some village or in illiterate family, okay, they are having the very good reproductive structure, okay, but they're having the copulation as an ovulation. For example, during the menstrual phase or in the follicular phase or in the post-ovulation phase, if they have the copulation, zygote will be not formed. So basically, we will promote the couple. Okay, if they're having the complaint of infertility, please have copulation from the 8th day to 12th day after the bleeding. After the bleeding of the female, okay, of a particular couple, okay, you have copulation after the 8th day or after the 9th day for the 4 days. So then you will have effective conceivement or zygote formation. Like this, we will be conveying to them if the reproductive structure is very good. Okay, these type of knowledge should be given to everyone. Okay, the ovulation period indicates the release of the egg because of the LH and FSH secretion, which is happening from the pituitary gland under the influence of GnRH. So GnRH is very, very important. Gonadotrophin releasing hormone. And also the symbol is also very, very important. Okay, either you or me, we can't change the poem of Shakespeare, right? So we can't change the definitions. We can't change the laws, right? So law is law. Okay, we can't change. Like this, the symbol is symbol. So we should not change the symbol while writing the answer. GnRH symbol is this. FSH symbol is there. Some students are writing F small sh. That is wrong. Okay, some students are writing okay capital, small, everything. They are changing the sequence. That should not happen. That should not be a case, right? So now we are coming for the next segment of the menstruation cycle. In the luteal phase, basically, what is exactly happening here is the ruptured follicles is getting transformed into corpus luteum. Okay, we used to call this as remains of the ruptured graphene follicles. In the board exam, if they need to make the tough paper, they will use multiple terminology. They will bring mathematical biology. So mathematical biology, where they will bring in gametogenesis process. With the ready-made formula, we can't use that particular formula to bring the spermatogenesis process. The reason behind that is we know very well because of the oogenesis process, we should supposed to get 2 oogonium, right? Okay, if 2 oogonium is getting participated, then we need to get 2 egg. If you're using any formula, it will go for misinterruption. So to bring the tough board paper, either they will use tough mathematical biology question in gametogenesis process, what we discussed before this menstruation cycle, or else they will bring difficult terminology in such a way you won't understand. The remains of the graphene follicles, or else we can say the corpus hemorrhagium. This remains of the corpus, the remains of the ruptured graphene follicles are very, very important to make the corpus luteum, which is yellow in color for the first 4 months. Why? Because it is nourishing the egg. So once it is getting drained with the fat loss for nourishing the zygote, this corpus luteum is becoming corpus albicans. These corpus albicans are becoming white slowly, and this corpus albicans will go for degeneration, right? At the end of the luteal phase, right? So the premenstrual phase is the last segment of the menstruation cycle. Okay, it happens for about 3 days after the luteal phase, right? So the concerned male ejected the sperm, and if the sperm is reaching the egg, okay, in the female genital tract after copulation, if zygote is formed, then there is no chance for the premenstrual phase. There is no chance for premenstrual phase. There is no chance for the endometrium degeneration, right? So if the sperm is not interacting with the egg, then what will happen is the sperm will go for death, egg will go for death, the tissue of the endometrium will go for breakage. So the uterine layer, also called as uterus layer, uterine layer, also called as uterus layer, or the innermost layer of the uterus, also called as endometrium. So many terms they will use: uterine layer, uterus layer, endometrium layer, inner layer of uterus. All these things denotes the same word, which is going for degradation if the egg is not interacting with the sperm cells, right? So here the mood swing and the breast tenderness, everything will happen. So the fertilization does not occurs, the cycle unused the menstruation again back. Okay, so once the girl is conceived, there is no chance for second menstruation cycle for the next uh, 8 to 10 months. It varies, depends upon one female individual to other female individual. Why? Because in Australia, they're giving the child in the seventh month itself. Okay, well nourished child. Okay, proper child. They're giving the birth in the seventh month itself. So that is the reason why we mentioned from in most of the probability, in most of the cases, um, 8th month to 10th month. Up to that, there is no chance of menstruation cycle. If the girl is having a effective implantation of zygote in the uterus, right? So this is the way you need to understand. Now we are coming for the second segment is the regulation. Basically, the regulation cycle is controlled by the GnRH, FSH, LH, and estrogen and progesterone. All these hormones are the control factors, right? So if this hormones influences is coming down, or if it is getting less in quantity, then what will happen is the menstruation cycle is deviated, diverted. The concerned couple will be not having a child. In that case, we'll be giving hormonal therapy to streamline the issue. If it is not so, then we'll be going for the other type of in vitro fertilization tools application, right? So now here we need to understand the menstruation cycle happens for about 20 days. It varies from one individual to other individual, as we told long back to you, right? We discussed previous year's question papers and then past question papers.